Hello everyone, this is Rob and welcome to another tutorial for Visual Studio, programming in Visual Basic. And in this episode we're going to be looking at variable assignment. So, to begin, let's create a new project. And once this has loaded, there we go. I'm going to call it Variable Practice. And once again, we are using the camel writing, so capital V, capital P. And we press OK. OK, so now that's loaded, let's expand our form slightly. So we'll just use the drag in the corner and drag it to make it bigger. And what we're going to do is we are going to add a button here and another button here. And I think we'll add a label here. Notice how we're using the blue line to line them all up. So, yep, like that. And as before, we want to give them all meaningful names. So this first button, actually we'll work on the text first. So for the first button, I'm going to call it, make it say, move right in the text box. So it says move right there now, where my mouse is. And now I'm going to give it the name right box, so that when we reference this button in the code, it will be very easy to find. We'll know what it's called. And for button 2, we will set the text to be return to start. Okay? We'll expand that button so that it's a bit easier to see. And we'll do the same with this one. So now we've got all the text available in all of them. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to move the label to the left of our form. And once again, we're going to give this something to say. It doesn't really matter. We'll just make it say hello. It says hello now. We'll also beef up the font to make it a bigger font size, make it 20. Remember, we do this all in the properties pane, and let's make it bold as well. So let's call this the hello label, so it has meaning to us. And at this point, we want to create an event handler for our move right button. Now, if you recall from before, the way we do this is we double click the element in our form that we want to create an event handler for. So we got the private sub rightbox_click handles rightbox.click. So it's our left click event on the box. And in this, we want to make it so that every time we click this box, this label is going to move a little bit more to the right. Now, although this may seem a little bit unintuitive, when we move something, regardless of whether it's left or right, we use the .left property of the label. And the same applies when we're moving it up and down. We only use the .top property. This is because the .right and .bottom properties are read-only variables. That means that the variable cannot be changed. The value cannot be changed in this instance, unlike normal variables. So, we are going to get our label, which we have called hello label. And what we are going to do is we are going to change the .left property. Now, when we change the value of something, the thing we are changing the value of is always on the left-hand side of the equal sign. And what is on the right of the equal sign is what we're going to change the value to. So what we want to do is we first want to retrieve the current value of hello label.left. And the way we do that is we simply call for hello label.left again. So this is actually a valid line of code in its own right. However, it will not do anything. This is because on the left we are saying what we are changing the value of, and on the right of the equal sign is what we're setting it to. So right now we would just be setting it to its previous value, therefore it would not change. However, if we add the +1, or plus anything you like, you could do +2 or +3, then the hello label dot left property then becomes the previous value of hello label dot left with 3 on top of that. So if the dot left was previously 100, the new value of the dot left property is now 103. So this means it will move 3 pixels to the right when we click our button. So let's try this out. So if we click this, and as you can see, every time we click this button, the hello label is moving a bit to the right, 3 pixels in fact. Right now, the return to start button is not doing anything, and this is because we have not created an event handler or any code for it yet. So let's stop debugging. Okay, so we're going to create a new event handler, this time for the return to start button. So once again, we're going to double click, and now we have our event handler. However, I've just realized that I did not name this button. It still says button2_click. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that subroutine and give this button a meaningful name. So in the properties pane, I'm going to call it return button. And now when I create a new event handler, it will have updated, so it says return button_click handles return button.click. So how are we going to remember where our hello button.left was? Now there's one way we could do this. We could click the hello button, the hello label, sorry, and look in the properties tab. So if we look in the location here, this will show us the x and y coordinates, or pretty much the dot left and dot top property values. So right now the value is 45 for the left, that is the x going across horizontally. So we could make it so that our hello button returns to that value in our new event handler. So we could do hello label dot left equals 45, for example. This will have the illusion of working just right, just as we expected, like so. However, if we were to move our label to over here when it starts, we can move it right, but when we click return to start, it goes back to the left. This is not good programming, because what we want to do is we want to set up a situation where no matter where our hello label starts to begin with, our return to start button will always return it to that point without having any hard coding. And by hard coding, we mean putting in exact numbers like 45. So therefore, what we need to do is store the value of our .left property in a variable, which will remember the value for us so that when we want to go back to this value later, we can. So we are going to declare a new variable. So at the top of your form, in just below public class, we will write dim space, and dim is the keyword we use when we are declaring a new variable. So that means we are creating a new variable in our program so that we can use it. If we do not do this, the variable will not exist in our program and we cannot store data to it. So dim, and then we want to first do the name component of our variable. So if you recall, a variable has 3 components: the name, the type, and the value. The name is what we call the variable. This can be anything we like so long as it does not include spaces. The type is the type of data we are handling, which can be things like integers, booleans, strings, etc. And the value is the one part of the variable which we can change. So this is the part where we will be saving our .left property's initial value to. So let's do this. We'll dim left storage, I will call this. Then we know that this is referring to the .left property, it is storing that for us, storing that data. And we'll go dim left storage as is the next keyword we use. And now we want to specify the type of variable. So since the .left and .top properties are stored as integer values, we are going to use integer. At this point, we could create a starting value for our variable by going to equals 5, for example. However, we do not need to in this case. This is optional, and since we are going to set this dynamically, which means after the program has started running, we do not need this initial starting value. So now let's have a look at our return button.click. We want to make it so hello label.left equals its initial value. And where are we storing this initial value? Well, it's going to be in our left storage integer variable. So all we need to do is say hello label.left equals left storage. And that is it. That is all the code we will need for our return button.click event. However, there is still one more thing we need to do before this will work. And what that is to actually store the value of our .left property in the left storage variable. Now, how are we going to do this? In fact, what we are going to need is one more event. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the form itself. So not on any of the elements on our form, just the form itself. And if we do this, we create the form1 load event. So this means that this event will trigger the first time that we load our form. So essentially when our program starts up. And here is the best time to store the default value of any variables we want to store, because where they start when the form loads is always going to be the initial values, because we haven't had a chance to alter them yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to type left storage equals hello label dot left. As I said before, the thing on the left of the equal sign is what we are changing the value of, and what we put on the right of the equal sign is what we're changing it to. So we are just changing the value of left storage, so that is what the number that our variable is remembering for us, to be hello label.left. So now what should happen is when we load our form, it will first store the value of hello label.left to our left storage variable, so that when we press the return button, we can go back to that initial value just by recalling our left storage variable. This will allow us to, at any point in our program, return to the default value of our hello label.left property. So let's try this out. So if we just click the the move right button a few times, then click return to start, it returns to the start. If we move our hello label over here, we move it right, return to start, it goes back to where it was. I hope that has been useful to you guys. I hope you have learned how to create variables, how we declare variables, and how we can use variables in order to store data values for usage later. So goodbye from me, and good luck with your studies.